Introduction to Manzil Tarot. Quick disclaimer, I never intended or set out to create a new set of tarot decks. I never imagined that that would be possible. The market is saturated with tarot card decks. Does the market really need another set of tarot card decks? I don't know, that's debatable. But that's my quick disclaimer on how I never imagined or thought that I would do this, but I'm doing it. I am creating a new set of tarot card decks. So I read these books. I read a lot of books. And with all the information I gathered from all these books, something in the back of my head continued telling me, create a chart of all the knowledge you acquired. Create a chart of all the knowledge you acquired. And it just wouldn't leave me alone. So I finally sat down and I created a chart. Now, this took me several months because I'm busy. I travel, I work. So I just continued postponing creating this chart. But once I created the chart and I analyzed it, it made complete sense to me. We're going to go through some of the information in this chart. A lot of the information in this chart is absolutely debatable. And so after I created this chart, 3 or 4 days later, I started thinking about the constellations I would use in the minor arcana. And then it dawned on me and I realized I just created a new set of tarot card decks. So I just went with it. Let's get started here. So when it came to picking the constellations for which tarot card deck I would use, I used this book. I referenced this book. If you go to page 26 to page 67, this author breaks down, I thought this was so interesting, like, for example, Virgo, the Kabbalist, associated Hebrew letter, my pronunciation, I don't speak Hebrew, I'm not Jewish, I never studied Kabbalah, and they would use the constellation Virgo to represent the Empress. So I really used this in regards to constellations and the tarot card deck. This is an amazing book by Vivian E. Robson. And then here, she also goes into the Lunar Mansions, and then she goes into the Arabic Mansions. And then I love this because she goes into the Chinese Mansions. Okay, this is a phenomenal book. Okay, so as stated in that book, they use a constellation Orion and Taurus for the Magician Tarot card deck. Now, this makes sense to me. It's very powerful because if you read the Orion Mystery by Robert Bouval and Adrian Gilbert, here he has a wonderful illustration here on the Egyptian temples and how they pointed to the Orion constellation. So that was very powerful, and that made sense to me why the constellation Orion would be the magician. Here we have several lunar mansions. We have the first lunar mansion, the second lunar mansion, and the third lunar mansions with some sigils applied to them. Now, I was disappointed because in any tarot card deck, the magician has the 4 elements of the minor arcana. I was sad that there wasn't a 4th lunar mansion here, but I was happy that the 4th lunar mansion was in the tarot card deck, the sun, because we all know that ancient Egyptians worshiped the sun, and the sun is vital for life force on this planet. So the 4th lunar mansion can be found in the tarot card, the sun. Now, when it came to labeling the lunar mansions, I used this book, Star Names and Their Meanings by R. Hinckley Allen. I love this book. Back here, this book has a wonderful index, which I love to refer to. I've used this book so many times. Okay, so for the next tarot card deck here, we have the High Priestess, Cassiopeia, and then we have the Empress as Virgo. Here we have some lunar mansions. We have the 11th, the 12th, and the 13th lunar mansion. We have also a sigil. Now we have the Emperor. This is so beautiful to me, and it makes sense that the constellation Corona Borealis and the constellation Lyra would be in the Emperor tarot card deck, because of course the Emperor must have his crown, and the Emperor must have his Lyra, his music for entertainment. Here we have some sigils. Next we have the Hierophant is associated with the constellation Aries. Now, this made total sense to me that when I think of the Hierophant, I think of a pope or I think of a rabbi. Now, it made sense to me that would be in the constellation Aries because I'm not Jewish. I never studied the Kabbalah, but my understanding of Rosh Hashanah is that Abraham sacrificed a ram for his son Isaac. And also Yom Kippur, they sacrificed 2 male goats to cleanse the sanctuary on the Day of Atonement. So when I think of this tarot card deck, I think of like a rabbi and the ancient practices of sacrifice. Now, here we have the Lovers tarot card deck. We have the constellation Aquila, Antinois, and Sagittarius. Now, if you're not aware, the constellation Antinois is a love story in itself. So we're going to go to this book. We're going to go to page 27, and I'm going to quickly read you this little romantic love story. Antinois. So he was a youth of extraordinary beauty, born in Bithynia, and was a favorite of the Emperor Hadrian. He is said to have drowned himself in the Nile River in the belief that the emperor's life would thereby be prolonged, and the constellation was formed in his honor. So this makes sense to me, like this gentleman loved his emperor so much that he drowned himself. Next we have the Chariot is Ursa Major. Now this is debatable here, this sigil, Al-Qaid, because I've also seen this sigil used here for Polaris. But I went ahead and I put this sigil here under the Chariot because the Chariot is used to travel. And if you turn here to if you turn to Fixed Star, Sign and Constellation Magic by Christopher Warnock. If you turn to page 52 and 53. So he has here Al-Qaid, he has the sigils, Agrippa's sigils, and then it says that it's used for safety and travel. So that's how come I chose to put the sigil here in Al-Qaid and Ursa Major under the tarot card Chariot, instead of putting it under Polaris, which it makes sense that Ursa Minor and Polaris would be the world tarot card deck because in history, pirates, ship, mariners, men of trade, seamen would all use Polaris as a guide to the north. And even slaves in a southern plantation, if they escaped the plantation at nighttime, they would look up to the sky, look for Polaris, and they would know that that was the northern star, and they would head north for their safety. So it would make sense that Ursa Minor with Polaris is in the world tarot card deck. Okay, so back to the Chariot. The Chariot, when you look at the tarot card, there's usually 2 horses pulling the chariot, or sometimes there's 2 chariots. So it made sense that Ursa Major with its partner, has a partner, Ursa Minor. It just made sense to me that Ursa Major would be the Chariot tarot card deck. Okay, Let's go here. We have Justice, we have Libra, and this also makes sense because Libra is usually represented with scales. You go to any courtroom, any courthouse, you will see a female holding scales, meaning justice. Here we have the Hermit is represented as boots. We have Wheel of Fortune, presented as Capricorn, with some lunar mansions, Deneb El Jedi. We have the constellation of Leo, representing strength, with some lunar mansions and a sigil. We have Hangman with the constellation Perseus, Death, constellation Draco. Temperance. This makes absolute sense that Temperance would be the constellation Aquarius because Aquarius is the water bearer. And if you look at tarot card deck, the Temperance card, there's usually a water bearer in the card with, you know, pouring the water. And Aquarius is the water bearer constellation. We have the Devil tarot card as Oragai. Over here we have the Tower with Ophiuchus, I hope I pronounced that correctly, and Scorpio. The tarot card deck that I illustrated and I'm making, I included the Serpent. So it's Serpent's Ophiuchus. It's going to represent the Tower with Scorpio. Here we have some lunar mansions and we have some sigils. Now I want to talk about the star. This is so debatable. And I really debated here with the lunar mansions because in Pisces, you also have Alrisha. Now, the only reason I did not put the 26 lunar mansion here is because in this book, they put the 26th mansion in the Andromeda constellation. If you go here to page 36, it does acknowledge that it is now in the Pisces constellation. Let's see here. B appeared in a very early drawing as a Lucida of the northern of the two fishes and marked the 26th mansion, Manzil, the belly of the fish. You have this in the Andromeda constellation. In this location, it was Alrisha, the band, the cord, ribbon, or the thread, as being on the line uniting the fishes. But this title now belongs to a Pisceum. So it acknowledges that, yes, now it's in Pisceum. But the reason why I didn't put it in Pisceum is because when you fast forward here to the constellation Pisces and you read Alrisha, you read this whole paragraph here, it doesn't state anything about a lunar mansion. This is in page 342. It states here the same title being applied to B in Andromeda. This word originally may have come from the Babylonian Riksu cord. I really did struggle with this lunar mansion, whether I would put it in constellation Pisces or if I would put it in Andromeda. At the end of the day, I put it in Andromeda because in this paragraph here, they never mentioned a lunar mansion. They mentioned the 26th lunar mansion in the constellation Andromeda. And here we have the 24th and the 25th lunar mansion. So if you look at the Mazzaroth, the lunar mansion here, this star here, B, this is actually in Pegasus. And this star A, I believe this is Andromeda and Pegasus where they unite. So I'm gonna reference here, it says Aurisha, the band we're in to hold. So it does make sense that A here would be also Aurisha. It is named Aurisha. And as you see, this A star is a band. It holds this Pisces constellation together. So like I said, this is very, very debatable. I am very aware of this. But at the end of the day, I decided to put the 26 lunar mansion here because this is the book I used to reference the lunar mansions, and nowhere in the constellation for Pisces did it mention a lunar mansion. It referenced it to Andromeda, so I put it there. And then here also in the Mazzaroth, it says Alferg Muchadam. So here we have Alferg Muchadam, and in Arabic, Alferg Al Mutakadam. Please forgive me, I know I'm butchering these words. And then you have here, with later gained Muacha. So here we have Muacha and Alferga Muaka. So this whole, everything here, everything is always debatable. I am aware of precision. So I understand that that precision is an aspect also to take into play. Next, we have the moon. In the moon star, we have the constellation Cancer, Canis Minor, Canis Major. We have some sigils here. And then we have the sun card with the constellation Gemini. We have the 4th lunar mansion, as I mentioned before. Then we have Judgment is in the constellation Cygnus. And this just makes me laugh. This makes total sense because Cygnus represents, it kind of looks like a pitchfork. And you think of judgment like you're being judged by the Catholic Church. The devil will come upon you with his pitchfork. Or you're being judged and watch out for the devil and his pitchfork. So the fact that Cygnus represents kind of like a pitchfork and judgment, that made sense to me. I already discussed the world with Ursa Minor. And then next we have the Fool Cepheus. The Fool constellation, when I look at this, Cepheus, it reminds me of a donkey hat. If you were bad behaved in school, they would put a donkey hat on you and you'd be the fool. So this is a quick introduction, explanation to the major arcana that I created for Manzil Tarot cards. Thank you. Bye.